Daf Kuf Mem Beis Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. Tanya Kavasi de Rava. We learned previously that Rava said that if a person carries a child and the child has a kiss, it's like the person is carrying the kiss. So he's high for the kiss. So carrying the child or carrying a person who is carrying something, it's like the one carrying the person is carrying that object as well. Tanya Kavasi de Rava Hamaisi Kela Mekupolim Menachem Seifai. If a person carries his clothing, if he's not wearing the clothing, but he carries the clothing, it's on his shoulder, folded on his shoulder. And it's folded and it's resting on his shoulder. The sandal of a tabas where he's carrying in his hand his sandal and his ring, chayev. So he's not carrying it derech malbush, he's not wearing it, it's not a tachshit, he's carrying it, he's chayev. But if he was wearing them, potter, then he's potter. So that's a levisha, that's a tachshit, and it's not carrying his potter. If he carries a person, and the person is wearing the clothing, or he's got the sandalim on his foot, and the ring on his hand, so now he's carrying the person is wearing the clothing, then potter. He's completely potter. He's potter on the person for carrying the person because chay neses atzm, and he's potter for the clothing because the person is wearing the clothing. So that's derech levisha. But vilo etzim k'may shehein. But if he carried the person and the clothes and were now not being worn, but they were on his shoulder or they were in his hand, then chay. Then he's chayiv. So you see, Tanya Gavasei de Rava, that carrying a person who's carrying something is as if the person who carried the person is carrying those objects. So he's chayiv for carrying those objects, even though the person he's carrying is the one that's holding the clothing or the objects in his hand. But the person who's carrying that person, it's as if he is carrying those objects. The Mishnah said that if a person has a basket, so he is noitel, he's allowed to be noitel, the kalkola, the basket, and even though it has a stone in it. It's for the Gemara, how can he be metaltal the basket? How can he move the basket, which has a stone? The stone is muksa. V'amai to have a kalkola basis l'dover also. Why don't we say that the kalkola is a basis for a dover also? It's now it's holding the muksa, so therefore it's serving the muksa. It itself should be also. Omar Rabba Baruch Han Rabbi Yochanan, he answers, Hachaba kalkola malay peres askina. We're talking about over here by a basket that's full of pears. So it's a basket full of pears, and therefore the basket is a basis l'davar ha'asar or l'davar ha'muter. That since you have the fruit over here, so now one way of learning, and this is the way many Rishonim learn, is that it's a basket, it's called kola, that's filled with pears, meaning the ikar is the pears. So it's a basis l'davar asar or muter, where the primary function is for the pears. Therefore, it's muter. Therefore, it's muter, and it's not considered muksa. That's the way the Rashba learns in the Ritva. Most of the Rishonim learn that way. That over here it's not because it's pears, that it's the primary function is pears. But lo yitzur, for instance, it would be with money and pears. Then we wouldn't say that it's a muter. Would be considered basel davar asr l'muter. But there's a day in the Shulchan Aruch that brings down and says it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter which is more chashiv. In both cases, we would say it's considered a basel davar asr l'muter. Therefore, it's muter. Therefore, the Gemara is saying, therefore, in this case, it's not considered a basel because it has pears. Well, Still in all, even if it is a basel davar asr muter, but if you have the option of emptying out the pears, empty out the contents, and leave the pears, and then collect the fruit, and nishdinim yadayim, gather the fruit, collect it, put it back in the basket. If you have an option of not being metaltal on the stone, why don't you avail yourself of that option? So therefore, pour out the contents and just pick up the fruit and put it in the basket. So based on that, this is what the Rashba says when the Gemara asked a question and said that lahave bosses, it should be a boss l'davar also. Well, what's the Gemara's cash? Maybe the case in the Mishnah is when it's not a bosses, where it was shakach. When we say bosses l'davar also is when a person intentionally put the item there, the muksa item there before Shabbos. He intentionally put the items there, so he wants it to serve the bosses to serve the muksa item. But why can't we say the Mishnah is talking about a case where he did not intentionally put it there? He was shachach, he forgot it there, where we won't say it does not have a din of a bosses. So what's the Gemara's kasha to begin with? So the Rashba answers that and a chanami. It could have said that, but it wants to show you that even in such a case, if you have an option of discarding the muksa, of removing the muksa, you should still avail yourself of that option. So even if it is shakach, the moral point is that we should say that in any event, spill out the contents. So why do we allow you to carry the basket with the fruit and with the stone? Why don't you say spill out, empty out the basket, and the stone will therefore be removed and you won't have to carry it? More answers, like we see later, we'll see shortly in the Gemara. He says it in a different case. Here also, beperas hamitunofim, beperas gerar rav lar amarav beperas hamitanfim, alchanam beperas hamitanfim. Just like he says over there, that the case is that you can't spill it out because the fruit will get ruined. It's a delicate type of fruit that will get ruined. Here also, in this case with the kalkala, we're talking about fruit, that if you spill it out, it will get spoiled, so therefore it's not an option, and therefore you're allowed to be metalt on the kalkala with the egg. Well, okay, don't pour out the contents completely. Don't empty out the fruit, but shake it until the stone falls out. Still, you have an option and of not carrying the stone. Shake it out and shake it so that the stone falls out. Amar Rav Chiya Barashi Amar Rava, he says, and Chanami, we're not talking in this way. Most Rishonim learn, we're not talking in the scenario that we mentioned before. We're talking where the basket itself has a hole. The stone is part of the basket. The stone now serves the basket, and it's not even muksa. So it's talking in a case where the stone is now, in such a case, since it's plugging up the hole in the basket, we look at the stone as being part of the basket, and it's not muksim. Metaltal in truma. So the Mishnah says we can be metaltal truma together with truma Torah and truma tmeya, or truma together with chulin. So if you have truma and you have chulin, you can be metaltal it. This that we said you can be matar the truma tmeya and the tahira, that's only when tahira lemata utmeya lemala, where the tahira is on the bottom, the tmeya is on top. Then you can be metaltal. Aval tahira lemala utmeya lemata, but if the tahira would be on top, we would not allow you to carry the basket, to move the basket. We would say rather shaka leila tahira v'shaval tmeya. We would say just remove the tahira and leave the tmeya. Where is it that we allow you to carry the whole basket? That's where the tahara is on the bottom. So there you don't have a choice. But if the tahara would be on top, we would say, don't carry the basket, just remove the tahara that's on the top. Well, even in the case where the tahara is on the bottom, still, why should we allow you to carry the basket? Spill it out and just take the tahara. Amar Rav says what we just mentioned previously. The Paris hamitanfin askinan. We're talking where it is delicate, it'll become ruined. It's soft, so if you spill it all out, the tahara will get ruined. Therefore, that's not an option, and therefore we say over here that if the tahara is on the bottom, you're allowed to remove the basket and remove to a place where you can spill it out, let's say onto a table inside the house, etc. Meisol asks you kasha metalton truma tamei metayri mechulin. The Mishnah says you're allowed to metalton truma tamei metayra v'mechulin, but the Brisa says bein shetahira lamala u'tamei lamata bein shetamei lamala u'tahara lamata. It says in the Brisa that it says clearly that it makes no difference whether which is on top. Tiyufta the Rav Chisda, so it's a kasha on Rav Chisda. Omer lach Rav Chisda, no. Masni, so let's say Guf. Bryce, let's say Mekayma. The Bryce over here that says it makes no difference what's on top and what's on the bottom, that you can be metaltal. And we don't say that if the tire is on top, just remove the tire. It's talking in a case not where you want the truma tahira. It's talking in a case where you want the place that the basket's resting on. You want to use the place that the basket is resting on. It's surah mekaimai. So therefore, it doesn't help you. You're not accomplishing anything by removing the tahira that's on top. You want to remove the basket to get it out of the way. So you're allowed to be metaltal this, the surah mekaimai. You're allowed to be metaltal it, and therefore you are allowed, makes no difference what's on top, what's on the bottom. But the Mishnah is talking in a case is not the where you need the makom, where you need the place of the where it's resting on. It's not that you need the place over here. It's talking where you want the truma tahira. Well, if you want the truma tahira, if it's on the bottom, then you can remove the whole basket. You can remove the basket because you can't spill it out because it gets spoiled. You can remove the whole basket into a place where you can spill it out. But if the truma tahira is on the top, then why move the basket? Just remove the truma tahira. So the Bryce is talking in a case where you need the makom. That's why it makes no difference. But why do you have to say the Mishnah is talking in that case? Why do you have to say it's talking in a case where you want the truma, and therefore it's only if the truma tahira is on the bottom that you can remove the basket, but if it's on the top, remove the truma tahira? Why not say that's the same case as the Brisa? He says no. The Mishnah is meduik like what he says. Diktani is safe because the safe of the Mishnah says mo'al shalakar. If you have money that's on a pillow, menare sakar vein knifeless, you shake it and it falls off. That what we say is that you shake it off, and that's only where you sarach gufa. You need the pillow. The pillow has the money. You can shake it off because you want the pillow. But if it's a tzarech mekaimai, if you need the place of it, then we won't say shake it off. You say you can't be metalted, move it, even though the money's on top of it, because you need the place. You need the place of where that item is underneath. Now, umid is sefer l'tzarech gufa. So since the sefer says that you shake it off, must be talking where you need the pillow, where you need gufay. Reisha nami l'tzarech gufay. So the Reisha is also talking l'tzarech gufay. So that's why he qualifies in that way, and he says that it's only where the truma tahira is on the bottom, but if it's on the top and you need the truma tahira, you would not be allowed to move the basket. Just remove the truma tahira. Rabbi Yehuda says if you have a mixture. We have a mixture of 100 chulin and one truma, a mixture of 101. He says you're allowed to remove that one part, and remove that one part of which is designated as truma, and then the rest is permitted. Famai, affecting more, why is that mutar v'kamasakin? You're being masakin the mixture by removing that one part. Now you're fixing it. You're being masakin. You're rectifying it, and you're now making this part of it mutar. The remainder of it mutter and as chulin. So why should it be mutter to remove that part that we consider to be truma? The Gemara answers Rabbi Yehuda ki Rabbi Eliezer sfirlei. The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yehuda says it's not considered to be masakin because he holds like Rabbi Eliezer that considers it to be as separate and not mixed. Domer truma be'ena machta. That we view the truma, even though it's in a mixture, we view the truma to be separate and independent. So therefore, he's not really being masakin anything. He's not really doing anything. He's removing that part of truma which already we view halachically as being independent and separate. This now we learned in the Mishnah, saw truma shenafel apachs memeya v'nidmu. If you have a saw truma that fell into less than 100 times of that, so it's not bottle, it's nidmu. It's considered to be a mixture, and it's also v'nafel min hamaduma l'mal kamach. Now, some of that mixture fell into another mixture, into another place. So some of that mixture fell into another place, which had, not into a mixture rather, but some of that mixture fell into somewhere else which had less than 100 of chulin. So Relezer Omer, so if you have a case of the saw truma that fell into less than 100, it became meduma. It fell, some of that meduma fell in the Mokamacha. Rabbi Lezer Amar Medamesk, Trumas Vadai. Rabbi Lezer says, you view what fell in as medamaz, that whatever fell in, you don't look at it like a mixture. You look at it like it's 100% truma. Whatever came from the original mixture, you say that component that came from it, we treat it like the truma is separate, and it's not considered to be a mixture which has a part truma, part chulin. It's considered to be 100% truma. So therefore, you need 100 times that amount, the amount of what fell in. It's medanska trumas v'cham. But the chum say no, you don't treat it like truma vadai. It's only medam lefi cheshbon. You say what were the percentages of the original meduma, how much truma, how much chulin was there, and according to the proportions of the truma and chulin, what fell from that meduma that fell into the chulin is now you need 100 times, not of the total amount that fell in. You need 100 times of the percentage of truma that was in the original mixture that fell into this new batch of chulin. But al kaponim, you see, the Rebbe Lezer holds that we view the truma that's in a mixture with chulin. In the meduma, we view it as being not mixed, as being separate, and therefore it is Me'edame, it's now, it creates an isser in the new batch as if 100% truma fell in. So similarly, we want to say that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the truma component in the mixture is considered separate, and therefore by removing it, you're not being mesaken. Yes, Rabbi Eliezer says that the truma is considered to be separate and not mixed. So chumra, that's to be makmer, to say that in this case, you need 100 times the total amount that fell in to this new batch, because we view that what fell in as being 100% truma. But that's l'chumra, l'kula. But in our case, to say that on Shabbos you're allowed to remove this part of the 100, to the 101, the one part of truma, to remove it on Shabbos, it's not considered misakin, l'kula mishamatli. So you cannot compare the two, Rabbi Yehuda Shita to Rabbi Lezer. Elahu Damar Kirab Shimon. Rather, we say that Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rav Shimon. And we see from Rav Shimon that he holds that the truma is considered distinct and on its own. If one saw of truma fell into 100, and he didn't remove that truma. He didn't have the opportunity yet to remove that truma until another saw of truma fell into the mixture. So now you have two saws of truma into the mixture. Harezu asura. So Tanakama says it's asura because we have two saw into the 100 of chulin, so it's not mevatlet. But Rav Shimon matir. Rav Shimon says it's muter. So l'chera must be that Rav Shimon holds that the reason why we say it's muter is because the first saw of truma, we look at it like it's on its own. It's not me'urav, it's not mixed in. And then the second saw fell into 100. When it says, maybe that's not the case. Dilma Hasan Bahal Kamiflaki. Maybe the machlekes over there is as false. The Tanakama Savar, Afal Gav the Nafla Bezeh Charzeh, Kiman the Nafla, the Vasachas Tani. That perhaps the Tanakama holds that even though they fell not at the same time. They fell one after the other, but since they fell both into this mixture, we look at it like it fell at the same time. So therefore, you have 2 saw of truma falling into the 100 at the same time, and we would view it therefore. It's commanded nafla batzachastame v'halachamshin nafla v'halachamshin nafla, and then each saw only fell into 50. It was only mixed in with 50, and it's not bottle. It's not mixed in with 100. Reb Shimon Sovar kamaisa bottle b'meya. When Reb Shimon holds that the first one is bottle in 100, we don't look at it like it fell at the same time. They fell b'zachar zeh. So the first saw of truma fell into 100. It's already bottle. And the second saw of truma is bottle in 101. So therefore, you have no raya from there. The Rishimon holds that the truma in the taruves is considered distinct and separate and not mixed together. Ella the Gemara says, "Who Amar Rav Shimon ben Elazar?" We say Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rav Shimon ben Elazar. The son of Rav Shimon ben Elazar Omer. If there is a mixture in the taruves and you have one part truma in 100 of chulin, so he decided he's going to remove the one part. In the meantime, he can eat from one side and leave over with the intent that on the other side he's going to remove the part truma from the other side and eat from one side with the intent that he's going to take the truma from the other side. So it's mutter to eat it even before he removes the truma. So therefore you see over here that it's not considered a big masakin. He's not big masakin because in any event he can eat from this mixture even before he removes it. So, more like I will say, does Rabbi Yehuda hold like him? But don't they argue? We see they argue. The Sanya Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says you can remove it, and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says you can't remove it. What you can do is you can eat from one side with the intent that you'll remove it later on from the other side, and you'll leave over from the other side and then remove it later. But you can't actually remove it, and Rav Yehuda says you can actually remove it. More answer is Rav Yehuda adif Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Yehuda holds like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, but he goes even further. Rav Yehuda says that since you can eat from it, then without removing it, since you can eat mitzad echad and and you remove it later from the other side, then you can even remove it. It's not even considered being masaki, and since in the meantime you can even eat it, therefore you can even remove it. It's not even considered masaki. So fundamentally he holds like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, but he goes a step further and he says you can actually remove it.